In Mathcad, you can create vectors and matrices for all kinds of mathematical operations and engineering calculations. In this video, we're going to take a look at 5 different methods for creating matrices and vectors in Mathcad. But first, let's review some background information. Here I have an example of a matrix. A matrix is a rectangular array or table, and it's going to contain different elements. Those elements can either be numbers, variables, they can be constants, strings, or even other matrices. And you will notice that the matrix is organized into rows and columns. For example, the top row contains the elements 1, 2, and 3. The rightmost column contains the elements 3, 6, and 9. A vector is very similar to a matrix. It is a matrix that only has one row or one column, and it can also refer to a row or a column within a matrix. So here are 3 different examples of vectors. Here is a vector that is created by extracting a column from the matrix M above. Here is a manually created vector, and this vector is a single column. And here we have a vector consisting of a single row. And the row contains a variable, beta. Beta is defined up above, and also a built-in constant, infinity, a string, which is blue within parentheses, and also a number, in this case, 42. And vectors and matrices are essentially mathematically the same in Mathcad. I mean, there are some functions that only take matrices or only take vectors, but operationally, there is not much of a distinction between matrices and vectors, and probably in the comments, someone will tell me that I am completely wrong. But anyhow, for a matrix, if you want to extract an element, the notation is going to be the name of the matrix, followed by the index for the row, and then a comma and the index for the column. If you have a vector, it's only going to be one value here corresponding to the element. Another thing to be aware of in Mathcad, there is a built-in variable called origin. Let's go to the calculation tab. Here we have the origin variable. By default, it is a value of 0, and that is the index for the first element in a matrix. So for example, if you take a look at this matrix up above, the matrix element 1 actually has the index number of m, and then it's going to be the index number 0, 0. The element 9 would be m, and then 2, 2. So let's take a look at some different ways of creating your different matrices. And the first method is going to be a manual method. And so I'm going to start out by going to the Matrices Tables tab. Here we have Insert Matrix, and I am going to create a matrix, and I'm going to make it 4 by 2. It's going to be 4 rows and 2 columns, and then I will click on the sheet. And now let's enter in the different values. Now I will enter in a value 2.2, and then you can use the cursor keys on the keyboard in order to move from cell to cell. And I'm just entering some random different values into the different cells, moving around using my cursor. And I can even use some built-in constants like the constant C. Let's even use pi, which I can do by P, Control G, and then move over to the last element in the matrix. If I want this to be a string, you can just use the quote, and it'll give you both the start quote symbol and the end quote symbol, and then type in the text that you want. Maybe I want to type in Dave in here. And so here I have my matrix. I can retroactively assign this matrix to a variable. I'm just going to position my cursor to the left-hand side, and then you can use the definition operator. If you go to the Math tab and then Operators, we have our definition and evaluation. It is this operator, but you can also use the keyboard shortcut of the colon key. I will click on it. It gives me a placeholder, and now I can assign this to a variable, and I'll just use the variable name A for simplicity. Alternatively, you can start out by defining a variable and then using the definition operator. I will use B, and this time I will use the keyboard shortcut of the colon key. And then I can go to the Matrices Tables tab. And this time I'm going to do a vector. Let's do a vector that is a 1 by 3 vector. In other words, 1 row and 3 columns. And once again, we can just enter in the values 1, 2, 3, and we have our vector created. You can pretty much refer to this as a vector or a matrix. Now let's take a look at and I know that some people are going to find fault with that. But anyhow, let's take a look at the second method. Well, we can also define our elements with the definition operator. So I can use a new variable name. I will use C. And then we can go to our vector matrix operation dropdown. And then this operator is for defining the matrix index. You'll notice that it has a keyboard shortcut of the left open bracket. And so let me click on it. And that way it looks like a subscript, but it allows us to enter in the element. And I'm going to use 3, 2. And then I will use the keyboard shortcut of the colon key. And now we have the placeholder for defining the value. And for this, let's enter in a value of 98. And now I will click outside in order to complete the definition. Now we can evaluate C, the entire matrix. Note that I have not defined any of the other elements of the matrix, just the single element, which is in really the 4th row and the 3rd column, because remember, we have that origin equal to 0 for the indices. So let's do C, and then I'll use the equal sign. And you'll notice that all the other elements of the matrix are equal to 0, except for the single element that I have defined. And I can even go back here. Let me move this over to the right to give myself some more space. Let's define some of the other different elements. So I will use C, and this time I will use the keyboard shortcut. And now I have the index operator, and let's do 0, 0, and then the definition operator. The keyboard shortcut is the colon key. And I'm going to make this equal to 2 times pi, P, Control G, and then let's cursor over. You'll notice that our matrix updates with the new value in here. Let's do that one more time. Let's do C, and then I will use the shortcut. And let's do in the index element 1 for the row, which is actually the 2nd row, comma 2, which is actually going to be the 3rd column. And just to be a little bit different, let's go to the Math tab, the operators, and then the definition operator. And let's make this be equal to, I don't know, 1007. And just to show you that you can use decimals, 0.5. So let me click outside. And again, we have this update. And this time it went to the default math notation that is set up for the formatting. Let me change this from general notation to decimal. And that way you can see that it is 1007.5. All right, let's take a look at another method of defining our matrix and its elements. We can do that with range variables and with functions. So let's use a range variable called I. Then I will use the colon key, and then I will type in 0. To get to the range variable operator, we can go to the Math tab and then Operators, and here we have it. And then we'll have this go to a value of 5. If you want to see what that results, well, I is equal to, and we can see that we end up with, in this case, a vector with the different values 0 to 5. But let me delete that. Let's create another one. Let's create another range variable j, and this will be equal to 0. Rather than using the operators drop down, well, there is a keyboard shortcut, which is basically hitting the period 2 times on your computer. So let me hit period. That automatically gives us a range variable. And let's use a value of 4. In this particular situation, since we did not specify a step, it is using a unit step, which is what we want for index numbers. Now we will use another definition. Let's do D, and then I will use my index operator. And let's enter in our element I, comma, j. And let's use our definition operator, and we'll make a function here. Let's make this I, and then I'll use the shift 6 for the exponent, I squared. Then I'm going to use my right arrow key so I can move my cursor to the right, and we're going to multiply I squared times j, shift 6 for the exponent, cubed. And so here we have defined each element of our matrix to be equal to I squared times j cubed. And so it's going to end up populating a matrix. Rather than just tell you that, let's evaluate. So I will type in D and then the equal sign. And there we can see our different variable values. Just like before, I'm going to go to my math formatting tab and change from general notation to decimal notation so that you can see the numbers. And so in our first column, well, the I is going to be equal to 0, so all those values are 0. In our first row, did I call this a row or a column? This is the first column, this is the first row. In the first row, our I values are equal to 0. In our first column, the j values are equal to 0. That's why we have 0, 0. And of course, this has the index number 0, 0, which is 0 times 0, which we all know is undefined. Just kidding, seeing if you were paying attention, 0 times 0 is just 0. But then in the rest of the elements, well, we are getting that I squared times j cubed. And you can verify this if you want. So for example, I squared here, this would be equal to 25 times j cubed times 4 cubed. Well, 25 times 64 is equal to 1600. Now let's take a look at a fourth method, and this is with loops and programming. In a previous video, I created a function for calculating prime numbers because I realized that if a number is not divisible by any of the numbers up to its square root, hey, it is a prime number. And it's not like, people might be like, hey, Dave, everybody knows that. People have known that since the time of the Greeks. I was just playing around in my head with prime numbers and realized that, yes, I know I am not the first. But anyhow, to make it interesting, rather than just checking if a given number is a prime number, I decided to create a program where you enter a starting number and an ending number, and it finds all the different prime numbers within that group. And you'll notice here we have a variable that is initialized called index, and that's going to be equal to 0. Then we're essentially creating a vector in this program. So the first element of the vector has an initial value of 0, and then we start looping through and checking to see if the number is divisible by any of the numbers up to its square root. If it is not, it is then adding that to our vector that we are creating and then returns it at the end. So again, I have an entire video where I go through the creation of this program, but again, loops like the for loop that we have here is a way of creating programs, including other loops like a while loop or an if loop. So, or excuse me, if is not a loop, but for loops and while loops. But anyhow, let's take a look at evaluating this. So let's look for prime numbers. And let's look for prime numbers between, let's say, 100 and 150. And then let me move over and then hit the equal sign. And so it evaluates our program and it comes up with these different prime numbers. Let me grab this, move it a little bit down. And so we can see that we have the values of 101, 103, 107, 109, and so forth returned in a vector. And so we have our loop creating all those different values. And for the fifth and final method that we'll take a look at in this video for creating matrices and vectors, you can import files. And so also in a previous video, I did an analysis of Super Bowl coin tosses. So I'm going to read in an Excel spreadsheet and end up creating a matrix from that. And so I will call this coin toss and then use the definition operator with the colon key. Then I can go to the input output tab. Here we have the read Excel function. Let's browse to a file. And let's see, in this folder here I have a spreadsheet that I created where I compiled all the results of the coin toss in the Super Bowl. So I will choose the open button. And now we get a preview of the results. I will expand this. And so I don't need to bring in this entire Excel spreadsheet in terms of the columns. I only want the columns A through I, so I can edit that. Let's change from the default L, which is the extent. And it's going to bring in rows 1 through 1,000. Well, I don't need row 1. That's my header row. I just want the data. So let's change that to a 2. And I know that there have not been 1,000 Super Bowls. Let's go down. The last row that I have in here, where I actually have a full set of data, is row 54. Let's just bring in that one. I need to update this for the last few Super Bowls. So anyhow, let's change that. And now I can choose the insert button. So now I have a variable that is defined with this. Let's take a look at the evaluation of this variable. Let's go to coin toss and then hit the equal sign. And let me reduce the size of the text here just so that I can, or math formatting, just so I can get this to fit on my single sheet. Let's try 9. Yeah, that should work. Let me go to my document tab and change from the draft view to the page view. And so now we have our evaluation, and this is indeed a matrix. You can see the indications of the matrix, and we have all our different values listed inside here. Let me just grab this, make it longer in here so you can see all the different values. And here I have my team, the Eagles, and I can see that this is from the row 14, and it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's evaluate that. Let's do coin toss, and then I'll use the keyboard shortcut for the index operator, and the row number is it's actually row 14, because again, it says 1 here, but this is actually the index number of 14. So let's type in that, 14, comma. And then I said once again, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 14, comma 5. Then let's hit the equal sign. Hey, it's my Philadelphia Eagles. So there you have it. Those are 5 different methods that you can use for creating matrices and vectors inside of Mathcad.